Elias always thought living alone would make life quieter. But the first night in his new apartment, he realized quiet can feel wrong. At 2:14 a.m., he heard the front door open. Soft, careful, like someone trying to not be noticed. Elias froze in bed. He hadn't given anyone a key. The landlord promised the place had been empty for months. He waited, listening. Footsteps moved across the living room. Not heavy, not rushed, just familiar. Same rhythm as his, same gait, same slight limp he developed from a high school sprain. He felt a cold wave wash over him. No one knew he limped. The footsteps stopped outside his bedroom. Elias held his breath. A slow shadow drifted across the narrow gap under his door, a silhouette shaped exactly like him. It paused there, as if listening to his breathing. Then, in a voice that matched his own down to the quiet rasp, it whispered, "You're in my room." Elias lifted his hands to his face, trying to convince himself he was dreaming, but his skin was cold, his breath sharp, his pulse pounding too hard for sleep. He waited for the doorknob to turn. It never did. When Elias finally gathered the courage to step out of bed, the hallway was empty, silent, as if no one had been there at all. But the front door, it was locked from the inside. And the floor near the entrance had a perfect set of footprints. Same size, same shape, same pattern of wear in the heel. His. But they were facing into the apartment, like someone identical to him had already been living there, long before he arrived. The next morning, Elias tried to tell himself he imagined everything. New place, late night, half asleep. It made sense, but the apartment didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied. He noticed it first in the kitchen. A mug sat drying on the rack. Not his mug, but the same brand, the same color, the same model he used to own years ago. He didn't buy it. He didn't bring it here. It was just there, dripping quietly. He opened the cupboard. 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 glasses. He had only unpacked one set, but now everything was doubled, like someone else had matched his belongings piece by piece. Elias opened the fridge, his stomach dropping. Inside was a leftover takeout box, same order he used to get every Wednesday from a place he hadn't visited in years. He checked the timestamp on the receipt. Delivered yesterday, 4:51 p.m., but at that time, Elias was still driving the moving truck. His hands trembled. He stepped back into the living room and noticed something else. A jacket draped over the armchair. Not just any jacket, his jacket, the one he lost last winter and never found again. He paced the room, running fingers through his hair, trying to piece it together. Somebody was messing with him. A prank? A previous tenant? A break-in? But the locked door, the footsteps, the voice, the familiar things. No intruder would live like him, eat like him, wear like him. Elias scanned the apartment again. Everything was his, but duplicated. He finally walked to the bedroom. His bed was neatly made. He never made his bed. And on the pillow lay a single hair. Same color, same length, same slight curl at the end. His hair. But he hadn't slept on that side yet. A chill climbed up his spine. Someone identical to him was living in the same apartment. Not a ghost, not a memory. Someone real, physical, active. And last night, they stood at his bedroom door and whispered, "You're in my room." The sunlight dimmed as if a cloud passed over, but Elias knew that wasn't a cloud. Something had moved in the hallway. Elias decided he needed proof. If someone was entering his apartment, living in it, moving through it, touching his things, a camera would catch them. He set up his old phone as a recording device, propped it on a shelf facing the living room, another one in the kitchen, another pointing at the front door. Simple plan. Record everything. Clear answers. He hit record, left the apartment for an hour, and walked the block just to calm his nerves. When he came back, the apartment felt normal again. Quiet, still. He opened his phone and pressed play. For the first 30 minutes, nothing. Just the apartment breathing softly in the afternoon light. Then, at 31:07, the air in the living room shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, more like the space rearranged itself. A figure walked out from the hallway. Elias's blood ran cold. Same height, same hair, same posture. But the man didn't look at the camera. He looked directly toward the front door, listening, waiting, standing completely still for almost a full minute. Then the other Elias walked to the kitchen. Elias felt his breathing shake as he watched himself, or whatever this was, pull out the takeout box he swore he hadn't ordered. The other him ate silently, like it was routine, like it was normal, like it was his apartment. At 42:19, the phone buzzed in Elias's pocket from the outside world, and the other him froze mid-bite. Slowly, mechanically, the figure in the video lifted its head and looked straight at the camera. Not a curious look, not startled, a look of awareness, a look that said, "I know you're watching." Elias's hands started shaking so hard he almost dropped the phone. But the worst part came next. The figure stood, walked into the hallway, disappeared toward the bedroom, and a few seconds later, Elias heard the sound through the video, the bedroom door creaking open, the same door he slept behind last night. And then, in the footage, the voice he heard before whispered again, "You're still in my room." Elias paused the video immediately. The apartment around him suddenly felt smaller, trapped, like someone was watching him right now from some unseen corner. And then, a faint sound behind him, the bedroom door, the same creak, the same slow movement. It was opening. The bedroom door creaked open just a few inches. Elias didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't even blink. His eyes stayed locked in the dark gap forming between the door and the frame. Nothing stepped out, no shadow, no movement, just darkness. But it felt wrong, too still, too aware, like something inside was waiting for him to react. Elias slowly turned his head, just enough to glance at the phone screen again. The paused video still showed the other him standing in the hallway, frozen mid-frame. But something had changed. The figure's head was now tilted slightly more than before. Elias's throat tightened. I paused that. He hadn't touched the screen. Slowly, very slowly, the figure in the video moved, even though it was paused. A single step forward. Elias dropped the phone. No, 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 that's not possible. The bedroom door creaked open wider. From inside the room, his own voice whispered, "You shouldn't have recorded me." Elias stumbled back, heart racing violently. "That's not me, that's not me." The voice came again, closer now. "You made it real." Elias's mind spun. Made it real? The phone, the cameras, the recording. He turned back to the device on the floor. The screen was still playing now, no longer paused. The other him was walking again, but this time it wasn't in the living room. It was standing right behind where Elias had been just seconds ago, watching him through the recording. Elias stepped back again, his body hitting the wall. The bedroom door was now fully open. Darkness filled the room inside, but in that darkness, a shape shifted. Same height, same outline, but not quite solid, like a version of him that hadn't finished forming yet. Elias whispered, "What do you want from me?" The figure in the bedroom took one slow step forward, and the version on the phone did the same. Perfect sync. Finally, the two were matching. The voice came from both at once. "You saw me." Another step. "You recorded me." Another step. Now close enough that Elias could almost see his own face inside the darkness, except the eyes were wrong. Too still, too focused, too aware. Now there can be no two. Elias's breath stopped. The phone screen flickered and showed something impossible. A future frame. Elias lying on the floor, still, unmoving, and the other him standing over his body, calm, normal, alive. The real Elias shook his head violently. "No, no, no, this isn't happening." The figure stepped fully into the hallway, solid now, clear now, complete. And for the first time, it smiled. Not creepy, not twisted, just natural, like it belonged here, like it had always been the real one. And then it said softly, "You can leave now." Elias's pulse hammered in his chest as the other him stepped into the hallway, calm, steady, complete. The real Elias backed away, but the apartment suddenly felt smaller, like the walls had decided to shift closer to keep him inside. He whispered, voice cracking, "Why are you doing this? What are you?" The other him didn't answer immediately. It just looked around the apartment, the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, like someone admiring their home. Finally, it said, "I didn't come here." A chill ran across Elias's spine. The figure's tone was almost gentle as it continued. "You did." Elias swallowed hard. I live here. I moved in yesterday." The other him stepped closer. "No, you walked into my place. That's why everything felt familiar to you." Elias shook his head violently. "That's not true. This is my life, my things, my apartment." The other him's expression softened in a way that made Elias's stomach turn. "You don't understand, Elias." Hearing his own name from his own voice made something inside him break. The figure moved its hand across the countertop, tracing the wood grain like someone remembering a memory. "This place didn't choose you." It looked back at him. "It chose me." Elias backed up until his shoulders hit the wall. The figure continued, "I've lived here longer than you think, before you signed the lease, before you moved in." Elias's voice trembled. "That's impossible." The figure tilted its head. "Is it? Or did the apartment show you a life you thought was yours?" Elias felt the floor sway beneath him. Memories flashed in his mind. The jacket he thought he lost, the takeout he didn't remember ordering, the bed made in a way he never made it. What if those weren't coincidences? What if those were his memories being replaced? The figure stepped closer, its presence almost warm. "This place makes room for only one version, one who belongs." Elias whispered, "Which one of us is real?" For the first time, the other him smiled, a calm, almost pitying smile. "The one it keeps." Suddenly, the lights in the apartment flickered. A deep, low hum filled the walls. The air grew heavy, pulling at Elias's chest like gravity had shifted. The apartment was choosing, picking between the two versions, and the other him stood perfectly still, as if confident of the outcome. Elias felt the air tighten around him, pressing against his ribs. The voice came again, but this time from everywhere. There can only be one. Everything went dark. Darkness swallowed the apartment. No sound, no movement, just pressure, like the entire building was inhaling and waiting to decide who it would exhale back into the world. Elias felt himself sinking, as if the floor had turned to thick water. His vision pulsed with faint shapes, the kitchen counter, the couch, the bedroom, like all dissolving and reforming like a memory being rewritten. Across the darkness, he heard the other him breathe, calm, steady, certain. Then the apartment whispered, not with a voice, but with a sense. Choose. The pressure around Elias tightened, pulling at his ribs like invisible hands trying to peel him apart. He gasped, "Stop! I'm real! I'm real!" A soft voice answered from somewhere ahead. Real doesn't matter, only the version that fits. A single light flickered above the hallway. In that flash, Elias saw two silhouettes, himself and the other him, both faint, both flickering, both unstable, like the apartment was comparing them. The other Elias stepped forward, into the light, his outline sharpened, his features solidified, reality wrapped around him like a perfect mold. The apartment recognized him, and he said, gently, "You were never supposed to stay." Elias felt his knees weaken as the darkness pulled at him harder, pulling him backward, pulling him out. His voice cracked, "Please, this is my life. This is my body. Why me?" The other him's eyes softened. "Because you came last." The floor beneath Elias dissolved. He felt himself falling, through the apartment, through the concrete, through space that wasn't space at all. A cold void, like being erased from a photograph piece by piece. Then stillness, silence, a soft exhale. The apartment lights brightened slowly, returning to normal. The hum faded, the tension in the air lifted, and only one Elias stood in the hallway, whole, solid, breathing. He walked to the mirror by the door, the mirror Elias had never noticed before, and stared at his reflection. No flicker, no distortion, just him. He straightened his jacket, picked up the keys on the counter, and whispered, "Welcome home." Then he walked out. The door closed behind him, and in the empty silence of the apartment, for just a moment, something like an echo whispered, "I was here first," but only the walls heard it.
Hey guys, subscribe my channel for more videos.